आज हम लोग डेवलपमेंट ऑफ यूरोजेनाइटल सिस्टम पढ़ेंगे. Our urogenital system is developed from the intermediate mesoderm. Now, what is intermediate mesoderm? At the third week of intrauterine life, our embryo is tridermal. That is, this is ectoderm, this is mesoderm, and this is endoderm. In the mesoderm, this is ectoderm, this is endoderm, and this is here in the middle. This is neural tube, this is notochord, and by the side of which this is paraxial mesoderm, which will give rise to the our skeletal system. After that, this is intermediate mesoderm and both the sides, and then comes the lateral plate mesoderm. Lateral plate mesoderm again divided into the somatopluric layer of lateral plate mesoderm towards the ectoderm, and the splanchnopluric layer of the lateral plate mesoderm towards the endoderm. And the cavity in between is the intraembryonic coelom. This is intraembryonic, and here is the this is yolk sac. This is the cut section. If we look into the embryo, this is embryo, and here is the yolk sac. I have cut this portion. Okay. Now this what I am showing here. So this part, this intermediate mesoderm, this will give rise to whole of the genitourinary system. So if we switch over here, in the fourth week of intrauterine life, this intermediate mesoderm differentiate into 7 to 8 cord-like structure in the cervical region. This is cervical region, this is thoracic region, and this is lumbar region. So in the cervical region, the intermediate mesoderm, this will segmentation. This will show segmentation, 7 to 8 cord-like structure, and this is known as pronephros. And one duct is going caudally, that is pronephric duct. The fourth week of intrauterine life, but soon it will disappear. Then comes mesonephros at the region of the thoracic vertebra. At that time, thoracic somites. So here is our mesonephros, and the duct laterally going caudally. This is mesonephric duct. This remain up to 4 to 8 weeks. This mesonephros, this thing is called mesonephros. This mesonephros will develop into the genital system in male. Okay, and in female it will disappear after 8 weeks. Now 8 weeks onward, now intermediate mesoderm of this region will develop into one structure that is known as metanephros, the region of lumbar somites, and the one duct nearby is the metanephric duct. All these ducts open into a structure that is known as cloaca. It is the common chamber. Here is the gut tube. Gut tube is also opening here, and it is said to be the caudal part of the gut tube, this cloaca, where this duct opens. So this is endodermal in origin. Gut is developed from endoderm. Because this is the endoderm, it unite and the yolk sac enter inside, and some of only is coming out, and everything is encircled by the endoderm, and this will result into our GIT. And this splanchnopleuric layer of lateral plate mesoderm. This also encircle, which form the muscles which are covering the GIT tube. And this endoderm, this encircle, somatopleuric layer of lateral plate mesoderm, this encircle the ectoderm. Okay, only the corner part, this will proliferate too much. Only the corner part, only this part proliferate too much and elongate it and come ventrally. From here also come ventrally, only the tip portion, and this is known as intraembryonic coelom. This cavity in between, intraembryonic coelom, which will lead to the from cranial to caudal, the pleural cavity, pericardial cavity, and the peritoneal cavity. And this is our GIT tube. So GIT tube is also running, and it opens. It ends into a dilated chamber, which is known as cloaca. So cloaca is of endodermal in origin. Okay, clear? Now metanephros, this one, and the duct is metanephric duct, and the mesonephros is done by mesonephric duct. This mesonephric duct and the metanephros, this two things, when come in contact with each other, then show a vigorous reaction. What is happening here? This is metanephros and the mesonephric duct is going above. After 8 weeks, when mesonephros, some part of it remains in the male, which will result into the many parts in male and result into the genital system, and in female it will degenerate. Okay, so the metanephros, when come in contact with the mesonephric duct, not come in contact, they are passing nearby. From the caudal part of the mesonephric duct, the bud arises, that is known as ureteric bud. Ureteric bud. When ureteric bud come in contact with the metanephros, then shows a vigorous reaction, and this will result into our, you can say, urinary system. This metanephros, it forms the excretory part, and this ureteric bud form the collecting part. Excretory part is what? The Bowman's capsule, then proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule, then collecting tubule, up to this much. And then many collecting tubule, there was 3 to 4 million collecting tubules open into the collecting duct. So collecting duct are 3 to 4 million. Okay, so collecting duct onward, collecting duct plus major callus, then minor callus, then pelvis of the ureter, and the ureter, all this part develop from the ureteric bud. Collecting duct onward caudally, that will develop into the collecting part. And the glomerulus, it is developed from the capillary plexus from the dorsal aorta. And one thing I would like to mention, there is 12 generation of branching occur in this area. The ureteric bud, this shows in its cranial most part, this shows 12 generation branching. The first generation will develop into the collecting duct The second generation will develop into the major calyx, third and fourth into the minor calyx, and fifth onward this will form the ureter, pelvis and ureter. Okay. Now what happens when the ureteric bud and the metanephros come in contact? Both first metanephros so expresses WT1 gene. It expresses WT1 gene, the metanephros. With the expression of the WT1, metanephros secrete growth factor, that is glial derived neural factor and the hepatocyte growth factor. These two growth factor, and this is the ureteric bud, there is receptors on its surface. So glial derived neural factor, it will combine with rate receptor, and hepatocyte growth factor, this will combine with MET receptor. With this union, there is a secretion from both sides. From ureteric bud is secrete PAX and this this metanephros will secrete fibroblast growth factor and BMP, and this will secrete PAX and WNT. Okay, then WNT PAX2 WNT4 दो चार, and fibroblast growth factor 2 and BMP 7. Okay, this secretion by the metanephros will result into the hyperproliferation of metanephric tubule, and the secretion of PAX2 and WNT4 by the ureteric bud will lead to epithelialization of metanephric tubule, epithelialization around them, and this will result into the whole urinary system. Now afterwards what happened? This is the mesonephric duct, and this is the ureteric bud, and this is metanephros. Then all of this unite to form the urinary system. Now the caudal part of the ureteric bud and the mesonephric duct, this will unite. The caudal part will reabsorb into the mesonephric duct, and this form the trigone of urinary bladder. So trigone of urinary bladder is mesodermal in origin. As the mesonephric duct, it is derived from the intermediate mesoderm, so it is mesodermal in origin. Where is our urinary bladder is developed from the urogenital sinus. And urogenital sinus is developed from cloaca, and cloaca is the caudalmost part of the gut tube. So that is endodermal. Urinary bladder is endodermal, but only the trigone is mesodermal. And later on the inner aspect of trigone, endodermalization occur. That the mesodermal aspect of the inner surface of the urinary bladder, that will convert into later differentiation occur, and that mesoderm will convert into the endoderm. Only on is superficial aspect from the inner side. So this is later on one another bud arises from the, ये पहला बच्चा था यूरेट्रिक बर्ड, अब दूसरा बच्चा जन्म लिया है मेसोनेफ्रिक डक्ट से. This swollen part will develop into the seminal vesicle, and this is the cranial swollen part, and this caudal part will reabsorb, and this will, all of this now known as ejaculatory duct. Okay, and we know that the mesonephric duct, and by the side of which there is also a duct that is known as paramesonephric duct, and there is gut tube. All these are opening into a common chamber that is known as cloaca, and from here one exit channels is also opening into the intraembryonic coelom. Intraembryonic coelom, here intraembryonic coelom, this will be the amniotic cavity in the children. So the urine will, from the cloaca, it will exit out through the allantois. In the previous it is known as allantois, and later on that is known as urachus. So through allantois it will pour into the amniotic cavity. The secretion formed by the mesonephric duct and the mesonephros, that is flushed out through the allantois into the amniotic cavity. These do not contain the excretory product, only the secretion is there. Excretion is done by the placenta at that time. Okay, now this is the urogenital sinus. This will develop into urogenital sinus, and this urogenital sinus, not you can say urogenital sinus, this is the cloaca, and in the middle of the cloaca there is septum develop, septum, which divide anterior and the posterior chamber. The anterior chamber is known as urogenital sinus, and posteriorly this is anal sinus. Okay, cloaca will develop into the urogenital as well as the anal sinus. Now urogenital sinus again divided from cranial to caudal VIP, that is the vesicle part, I, but it is pelvic, I is from here, and this is phallic part. Phallic मतलब गिर गया, fall, इसलिए सबसे नीचे है. This vesicle part of the urogenital sinus, this will develop into the urinary bladder. Okay, and the ureteric bud open here. Ureteric bud, which will develop into the ureter and above, from the collecting duct onward up to the ureter. Okay, and here is the mesonephric tubule opens in the middle part, mesonephric tubule, from where a bud arises, that is known as seminal vesicle, and later on, and this common chamber is the ejaculatory duct, and this portion, that is the pelvic part of the urogenital sinus, this will develop into the membranous and prostatic urethra, and this phallic part, this will develop into the penile urethra. Now from where the penis and all this will develop, there is in the embryonic disc, this is the here is the primitive streak. From the primitive streak, here is the buccopharyngeal membrane, here is the cloacal membrane. By the side of the cloacal membrane there is cloacal fold. These two cloacal fold, this unite in the cranially and give rise to genital tubercle, and posteriorly this will elongate and form the urethral fold. This genital tubercle will develop into the penis in male and clitoris in female. And this urethral fold, this will develop into the labia minora. Okay, and the genital swelling, one genital swelling also appear here on the lateral aspect from the cloacal fold. Genital swelling, this will develop into the scrotum in male and labium majus in female. Okay, now coming to the mesonephros. This is our embryo and here is the mesonephros at the region of the thoracic somet. Mesonephros. Now this mesonephros, if this is mesonephros, the medial side of which this will develop into the genital ridge. Genital ridge, from where the finger-like projection will penetrate within the substance of mesonephros from the genital ridge. This is known as medullary cord. Medullary cord. First it is known as cortical cord. Then when it again elongate and insinuate the inner substance, the outer substance is cortex, inner substance is medulla. When it insinuate the outer substance, then it is known as, up to here is the cortical cord. When it enlarges furthermore, then it is known as medullary cord. From the medullary cord, testes develop, and from the cortical cord, ovary develop. Medullary cord, testis. Okay. Testis from the genital ridge. Testis from the genital ridge. This is genital ridge. In female, it is ovary. In male, it is testis. Okay. Then insinuate further this cortical cord. This will develop into the vasa efferentia. Vasa efferentia plus vasa efferentia. This is seminiferous tubule. Seminiferous tubule and plus rete testis. And here is the mesonephric duct, which is starting from the mesonephros and going up to the cloaca. So the mesonephric duct here, this will send S-shaped tubule towards the genital ridge. This is known as excretory tubules. The cranial part of the excretory tubule, this will develop into the epididymis. Okay. And the mesonephric duct here, the mesonephric duct, this whole of the mesonephric duct, this will develop into the vas deferens. Vas deferens. And the cranial most part of the excretory tubule will develop into epididymis. And the caudal part of the excretory tubule, this will develop into the vasa efferentia. Okay. And in female, it will degenerate but remain as a remnant. The cranial part will develop into the epuphoron that lies above the ovary. And here the cranial part of the mesonephric duct, this will remain as paraophron. And the caudal part of the mesonephric duct, this will remain as Gartner cyst in female by the side of the uterus. From where the uterus is developed? By the side of the mesonephric duct, this is the paramesonephric duct. And paramesonephric duct, this is paramesonephric duct going to the cloaca. Paramesonephric duct in its caudal part, they unite and forms the uterus. Cranial part develop into the fallopian tube, where is the middle and the caudal part, they unite to form the uterus. And here is the sinovaginal bulb. This will develop into the vaginal plate and then vagina. Vagina has got some ectodermal part also from beneath. Okay. Now, what decide male and female? At the 6th week of intrauterine, 5th week of intrauterine life, the sex determining region, which lies in the P of chromosome 7, short arm of chromosome 7, there lies the sex determining gene, SRY gene. This will decide that the baby will develop into male or female. This will promote the secretion of Mullerian inhibiting factor. This will promote the proliferation of medullary cord. This will promote the mesonephric duct. This will inhibit the paramesonephric duct. All these functions are taken over by the SRY gene, which lies in the chromosome 7 short arm. Okay. Now, what is Mullerian inhibiting factor? Mullerian inhibiting factor, paramesonephric duct is also known as Mullerian duct. It is regressed. Its growth is, which is going to make the uterus in female, it is regressed by this factor, which is secreted by the Mullerian inhibiting factor is secreted by the Sertoli cell. Sertoli cell is developed from the surface epithelium of the genital ridge. The genital ridge, the outermost part is surface epithelium. So surface epithelium give rise to Sertoli cell, which will secrete Mullerian inhibiting factor. Okay. And it also promote Leydig cell. Leydig cell is produced by the mesenchyme just below the Sertoli cell. The mesenchyme will give rise to Leydig cell. This will secrete testosterone, which again stimulate the Mullerian inhibiting factor. So all these factors will develop into the male child. And there is a growth of medullary cord, the more finger-like projections which are insinuating inside the substance. But in female, no medullary cord, only cortical cord, which will give rise to oogonia. Okay. And this medullary cord, it is worth mentioning here, it remains as a solid cord up to the puberty in male. Later on, it canalizes and changes into the seminiferous tubule. But in female, even in the 6th week of intrauterine life, cortical cord will develop into oogonia. This is the very important difference in between these two. And only the genital ridge will not develop into the testis or ovary. Genital ridge, which lies on the medial aspect of the mesonephros, genital ridge, it presents a finger-like projection inside, and here is our endoderm, yolk sac, and there is endodermal lining outside. This, from here, the primitive germ cell, which lies here in the 3rd week of intrauterine life. From 3rd week, 4th week, there is allantoisis passing from here. This primitive germ cell travel up to the allantois in 4th week of intrauterine life. From allantois to the dorsal mesentery of there is the cloaca, and from here the hindgut, and this is the dorsal mesentery of hindgut. This primitive germ cell reaches up to the dorsal mesentery of the hindgut in 5th week of intrauterine life, and in 6th week it will enter in between the finger-like processes of genital ridge. Okay, so this is the whole journey of the primitive germ cell, and our primitive germ cell along with the medullary cord or cortical cord, this will develop into the testis or ovary. Now what remains? So this is all about the urogenital system development. Now one thing I have left, the testis is above and kidney is below. But kidney, there will be ascent of kidney and descent of testis occur. The mesentery of, you can say the mesentery like structure behind the mesonephros, this is known as genital ligament. This in the cranial part it is known as gubernaculum, and in the caudal part it is known as genital ligament. This genital ligament, this will develop, the cranial most part will develop into the suspensory ligament of ovary, cranial most part, and the cranial part will develop into the this is suspensory ligament of ovary, and this is ovarian ligament. Okay, this is cranial most part of the genital ligament, and this is cranial part of genital ligament. And now the caudal part of the genital ligament will develop into the round ligament of uterus, which is going up to the labium majus in female. And in male, the genital ligament, and in male, genital ligament, that is the caudal part, that will regress, and the cranial part, the cranial part of the mesentery of the mesonephros, that is called gubernaculum. Now gubernaculum, and below there is genital ligament. This will pull the testis downward. And why it is pulling downward? Because there is union of paramesonephric duct in the middle. In both male and female, although it is regressed, this paramesonephric duct regress, but due to this pull created in the midline, they pull the genital ridge downward. This union of this paramesonephric duct. as well as the more growth of the caudal part of the embryo. There is more growth of the dorsal body wall, so it will descend down. And why there is ascent of kidney? Ascent of kidney, sorry, the more growth of the dorsal body wall is the reason of the ascent of kidney, because the metanephros, which will give rise an urinary bud, after that this part will grow more, so it looks that it is going up, and it's really going up because due to the growth of this below, this uh, this this will go up. Okay, and it is also hooked upward by the umbilical artery is worked as arterial fog for the ascent of kidney. And ascent of kidney, this kidney is supplied by the common iliac artery when it lies in the pelvic cavity, and when it is ascent in the abdominal cavity, then it is supplied by the aorta. So when if it lies in the pelvic cavity, we don't have to move kidney medially in order to save the kidney from any ischemia, because it is supplied from laterally. And if kidney lies in the abdominal cavity, we don't have to pull kidney laterally, because here in this region, in the abdominal cavity, it is supplied from medially from the aorta. This thing is very important, and the ascent of kidney is occur due to the more growth of the dorsal body wall, as well as the arterial fog created by the umbilical artery. And the descent of the testis and ovary is done by the gubernaculum testis or gubernaculum ovary and the genital ligament, as well as the union of the paramesonephric duct. Thank you.